The elite gathered the #1 spot to seek. From all around the world their songs did speak. Kate's eyes were seducers, but it was Kylie's producers who were the losers, not winners this week. Newsflash, people, it is July 1989 and wow, there may be a few duffers in the 10 this week, but it must be said they are interesting duffers and they are mere islands in a river of gold. In a week that hits like a hammer, let's get down to it. Kicking off the week with a segment which is nowhere near as trashy as Married at First Sight, but it's trying. Hello and goodbye! Departing the top 10 this week, it's double disaster for Stock Aitken Waterman as Jason Donovan's Sealed with a Kiss plummets from 10 to 18 after 3 weeks, reaching a flaccid #8, and it's accompanied, as was Donovan at the time himself, by that bonza little Aussie Sheila, Kylie Minogue, with Hand on My Heart, a song which debuted at #4 and never advanced on that, sliding out after 6 weeks, leaving the top 10 just a little less lovely for her absence. Replacing these Aussie titans was Simply Red with If You Don't Know Me By Now, which hung around for ages and even managed a week at #1. There are 4 current or former #1s in the top 10 this week, and one of the less essential accoutrements on the chart this week, or any week, Transvision Vamp with Baby I Don't Care, which stunningly made #3. I have no idea how. Biggest hit Bidding Adieu is another 1 week #1, She Drives Me Crazy by the Fine Young Cannibals, which had the temerity to depose Madonna's Like a Prayer some weeks back. And the biggest hit entering is a future #4, Sunita's Right Back Where We Started From, a fantastic cover of Maxine Nightingale's 1976 hit. Now, Sunita's no great shakes as a singer, but the arrangement here, especially the drums and strings, is just so evocative of the original. And the next #1 is the waspish Right Now Yeti Goth Stuff Out, a condemnation of how cosplay was ruining the goth lifestyle experience by the Blocked Sync. Propping up the entire enterprise this week at #10 is Iko Iko by the Bell Stars, a one-time opening act for The Clash, when The Clash were good. This got a boot from being on the Cocktail soundtrack, but it was too lightweight to go with the quality this week and clung in for a heroic 5 weeks, topping at #7. #9 is newcomer If You Don't Know Me By Now from Simply Red. Simply Red were a good idea, a hardcore British soul band, but somehow they went from that to generic purveyors of AOR pap, and now they're in the Where Are They Now bin. Mick Hucknall was a more than adequate singer, despite being a bit of a wanker, but he wasn't the new Dusty Springfield he was making himself out to be, and it shows here. Teddy Pendergrass, the singer he's covering, is like Marvin Gaye or Patsy Cline. He's not a singer you try to follow lightly. You have to try to reimagine the song, because once Teddy's had it, he'll never let it go. But people like this. It spent 7 weeks in the 10 and got to #1 for a week, then hung on for another fortnight at #2. This was by some way the biggest hit Simply Red had. They had 4 top 10s and 12 top 40s, but this was the only one that got any higher than #9. 8 is Transvision Vamp, a band I just utterly fail to see the point of, but it must be said they were really popular here in Australia. Possessed of one of the worst singers I have ever heard, TV managed 5 top 40 hits and a couple of top 10 albums, this being the biggest. They say this is an alternative rock band, but I can't see anything alternative about them. Listen to the playlist, make up your own mind. At #7, it's our first American act, and what an American act it is, the magnificent Madonna, with one of her greatest hits, the second single from Like a Prayer, Express Yourself. For such a great record, guaranteed to get a one-legged man out of his seat and dance, and I can speak for experience on that. This didn't perform as well as one might have expected. It only got as high as #5, despite having #1 written all over it. Maybe they released Cherish, which was a slightly bigger hit, too early and cut into its run. It's not like Madonna Mania was over. The Like a Prayer album and its title track had both deservedly topped the charts, and Vogue was going to be a huge hit next year. Oh well, they can't all be smashes, and this is her 8th appearance here, which sees only the Beatles, Elvis and John Farnham having made more. 6 is Bette Midler with Wind Beneath My Wings. Now, no great shakes as a record, really. I used to think it was old people's music, but now that I'm old people, I'm not sure what it is. Chief point of interest about this record was it was part of the most epic battle for the #1 spot with the next song in our countdown. It spent 2 non-consecutive weeks on top itself, hung in the 10 for 3 months, and finally dropped off the charts in the second week of September. Oh, at 5, it's Eternal Flame by the Bangles. Now, rather than discuss how the Bangles went from a promising jangle pop band to MTV video hacks and basically vehicles for Susanna Hoffs, I want to tell the story of how this, Wind Beneath My Wings and Bedroom Eyes by Kate Ceberano, which we're yet to see, fought the greatest duel for the #1 spot ever. We've seen a few good ones. Bohemian Rhapsody versus Fernando, the war of attrition between You're the One That I Want and Boney M's River of Babylon, where You're the One That I Want got to the top, got knocked off, spent 7 weeks at number 2 and then came back for 7 more weeks at number 1. The Bangles again going toe-to-toe with Kim Wilde's You Keep Me Hanging On back in 86. But Eternal Flame is the only song so far that's made number 1 on 3 separate occasions, hitting the top on 28th of May, only to be swept off by WBMW. But it was back after a week, only be deposed again for a single week, but the Eternal Flame refused to go out and was back on top for a third time as the bet was lost, before, after a week, the current number 1 finally did for it. Now, Aussie Kate Ceberano, meanwhile, was the third wheel, hanging at number 2 or 3 while all of this happened, meaning an unchanged top 3 for a month, and then she spent another month at number 2 behind the current number 1, one of only 3 records, as we've seen so far, that have spent as long as 6 weeks at number 2 without ever making number 1. Well, that's enough of that folderol. Let's take a look at the trade-up, where we consider worthy or interesting records that were on the charts this week that did not bother the top 10. A couple this week, more of the interesting pile than the unjustly treated. Perennial hard done by is the Hoodoo Gurus with their poppy Come Around, which tarried with the charts for a few weeks and only wobbled up to number 26. Doing one place in a couple of weeks better was Tom Petty with I Won't Back Down. Quite a famous song, but it only got halfway up the charts. Apparently purported Beatles member George Harrison played guitar on this. I did not know that. Still, it was just a bit of a record out of time given the dance flavour of the charts this week. Proving that statement is number 4, Prince's biggest hit in Australia, the Sample-adelic Bat Dance, a tie-in with that year's biggest movie, Tim Burton's Batman. It's an odd fish. It's not as much a song as a funky soundscape or a tone poem or something. It must have caused all sorts of confusion in local discos. When do we start dancing? All would be asking. Got to number 2 on August 27th, but hung around for a double-figure spell in the 10, and it may have done much better were it not for the top 3 logjam of Bangles, Midler and Ceberano. New Kids on the Block are up next with You Got It, parenthesised as the right stuff to avoid confusion with the recent Roy Orbison hit. An early taste of the sugary Sturm und Drang that came to dominate the charts over the next 10 years, this tuneless trifle spent 3 weeks at number 1. MKOYB were pretty much a template for the modern boy band. The pretty one, the athletic one, the dangerous looking one, the one that was probably gay, and the one that no one could remember. Much like Bat Dance, this isn't really a song. It doesn't have a tune to speak of, and there's no what we would call in jazz comp to it. Just little wisps of synth that link or fail to link the plodding drums and dull bass loop to the weedy vocals. What this record said to old rock music diehards like me was the change was a-comin'. Aussie Gold! At number 2, with the lovely Kate Ceberano and her Bedroom Eyes. As I've said, only one of 3 records have spent as many as 6, in this case non-consecutive, weeks at number 2 and not make number 1, but on any other charts this would have been a huge chart topper. It's a great record, and Kate has such a fluid and versatile voice that can really sell a song. Oddly, it was a hit in the wintertime, but it just screams summer at the beach to me. I love records like this. Kate wasn't an entirely unknown quantity at this point. She'd had 3 top 10s with a band called I'm Talking in the early 1980s. I had the good luck to catch a reformed I'm Talking opening up for Brian Ferry, perfect in-sync opening act, and a duet with Wendy Matthews. Her career for such a well-known and well-regarded singer has been a bit of an anomaly. Only 2 solo top 10 singles, but there are few people as eclectic or as adventurous working in the industry here, and Kate's 30 albums veer wildly and delightfully all over the spectrum, earning her an armful of ARIA awards along the way. Legacy media is dying because they report feelings and vibes and not facts. Here are some real, actual facts, or at least the internet says they are. The longest recorded flight for a chicken is 13 seconds. If you fell off the top of Brisbane's Story Bridge, you'd fall for 3.9 seconds and hit the water at just under 86 miles an hour. In 2017, Chance the Rapper won the Grammy for Best Rap Album, the first Grammy award to a record with 0 physical sales. If you are still insufficiently astonished by these astonishing facts, here are some more because it's Val's Fantastic World of Fact. Biggest riser this week was a Kiwi who took flight, Jenny Morris with Save Me, up 13 places to 46. But like her national bird, she came back down to earth very quickly as this flapped out at number 30. Biggest fall this week was our very own Princess Kylie Minogue, as Hand on Your Heart fell 10 places to number 17. She wouldn't be back on the charts until the 10th of September, when Wouldn't Change a Thing debuted at number 10 on its way to number 6. Speaking of big debuts, the biggest debut this week is Rip Rip Woodchip by local hero John Williamson. It only lasted 2 weeks on the charts and got no higher than number 36, where it debuted this week. This comes from an album called Warrigal. The first football team I ever played for was called the Warrigals. It's another word for what our non-Aussie friends may call a dingo. And the longest running single on the charts this week is Madonna's 4-week number 1, the sensational Like a Prayer, which is 19 weeks in. Number 1 in the USA this week was Martika's Toy Soldiers, a bit forgettable, and in the UK it was the even more forgettable Sonia with You'll Never Make Me Stop Loving You. Although Sonia did have quite a useful career, but she was as good as Invisible Down Under, where this song only got to number 33. 1 year ago, it was the Golden Girl Kylie again at number 1 with Got to Be Certain, which was only the second single ever to debut at number 1, where it spent 3 weeks. A year from now on, it was Hammer Time, as You Can't Touch This was on its way to becoming the second biggest hit of the year. On the album charts, 3 albums were hanging in for 50 weeks or more. The London cast album of Phantom of the Opera for 54, Open Up and Say Ah by Poison with 53, and this week's number 1, Hysteria by Def Leppard, which the Beaches soundtrack was about to do for next week, which had booked 50 weeks on the charts. Time for some fun and games. This time I have taken 6 iconic videos from the 1980s and twisted them up a little. Distorted, reframed, recut, screwed around with. See how many of them you can recognise in their new manifestation. Answers at the end. He's a dude from Tanzania and drumming's his career. To lead us into this week's number 1, it's Monty the Safety Monkey. And the number 1 hit this week is The Look from Roxette in its 4th week on top and showing no signs of slowing down. These imperious Swedes finally doused Eternal Flame and took the top spot, having slogged up the charts 45, 33, 23, 16, 7, 5, 4. This was the first of a dozen top 40 hits, including 3 number 1s for the Halmstad duo, who had, making an irresistible ABBA comparison, both been highly successful artists before they teamed up. When you listen to this song on the playlist, check out the lyrics. They are completely bonkers, but out of all of this triumph, there was a terribly sad ending as Mari Fredriksson passed away in 2019 from complications of a brain tumour that was first detected in 2002. Well, on that somewhat sad and lonesome note, we conclude this week's allocation of bovine consumption of cruciferous vegetables. I trust you enjoy this humble offering and remind you that should the good Lord be a-willin' and the crease not rise, we'll be back again, somewhere in time, next week. Ish.
Sounds so cool when it hits the bottom roof, and the horses wonder who you are. When you call my name, it's like a little prayer. I'm down. Love me like a bomb, baby, come and get it on. Living like a lover with a red iPhone.
You know, parents are the same, no matter time, no place. They don't understand that us kids are gonna make some mistakes. So to you.